Welcome to episode 6 of the Stoke Comment podcast. Today's guest is Ryan Conley of Carna Bunke gear. Ryan is a firefighter in the US with a master's degree in exercise physiology. He is also a former competitive powerlifter, author, and advocate for firefighter safety, health and fitness, and owner of Carna Bunke gear, a company that provides carcinogen-free training gear to reduce cancer in the fire service. In this episode, Ryan and I discuss the cultural nuances of the fire service and examine the many areas of cancer prevention that we can utilise to promote a healthy standard. We also discuss fitness and nutrition and Ryan's reasons for doing the important work that he does for firefighters and for the fire service in general. This was a thoroughly enjoyable episode to make, so I really hope you like it as much as I do. Here we go with episode 6. Right, hello Ryan. Nice to have you on. I'll let you do a bit of an introduction on yourself, and we'll kick it off from there.
Yeah, James, thanks for having me on, and I appreciate the invite and allowing us to talk some health and fitness and nerd stuff for the firefighters out there and try and improve the fire service a little bit. So,
Absolutely.
I am a firefighter. I've been a firefighter for a little bit over 10 years now. I'm an acting officer at our agency, and I think that we're moving in a really great progressive direction with some of our committees and department admin that sees a future in improving the fire service and trying these new things. So I'm very appreciative of them. And then I've got a graduate degree, a master's degree in exercise physiology from Florida Atlantic University. And I've been a coach, and I was a competitive powerlifter for a little bit over 10 years and a coach in some capacity for the past 15 or so. So some kind of personal trainer, online coach, involved in the fitness world somehow. So that's the long and short of a lot of weightlifting history condensed into one.
Yeah, no, great. So I guess powerlifting and health and fitness, it goes very well with the role of a firefighter, doesn't it? So it's probably quite a smooth transition for you into the fire service. So what led you into the fire service? What got you into joining the fire service then?
Yeah. I was always into athletics, martial arts growing up, taekwondo, wrestling. And then after wrestling in high school, transitioned into competitive powerlifting. So with that being said, I always was attracted to things that were physically demanding and mentally demanding and difficult. And actually, I got into the fire service completely by accident. Like, I knew that I wanted to do something in public service when I was in college. So I actually got my criminology degree and was aiming to become a cop or a police officer or agent, something along those lines. And I met my ex-girlfriend. Her neighbor was a fire captain in Hollywood, Florida, which was near where I grew up. And I hung out with him one day, just drinking a beer and trying to chat with him some. And he put the idea of doing firefighting in my head and how difficult it was. And he was an ex-military guy, and I just really vibed with him. And I trusted his advice, and I was like, you know what, this sounds like a challenging task, and I think it would be something cool that I could try. And obviously all the normal perks that come with firefighting of the type of shift work where you do have time to still do other things or have an alternative career or another, time off and stuff while you're still doing something productive and trying to give back to the community. So within all those things combined, I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. This sounds hard. Let's do it.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's pretty similar for me, actually. I initially wanted to join the police and ended up joining the fire service. And yeah, it was after a conversation with an old friend of mine. And I kind of fell into it as well. And it was like, yeah, this is didn't take me long to realize, I'm in the right place, to be honest. And yeah, I find the work-life balance with this job is great. If you have a busy few shifts, it does knock you out for your first couple of days off, but it's I do feel like you earn your time off, but it is a great balance. So I get that from a lot of people, all around the globe, really. I think that I've I've had the pleasure to speak to, it's a very similar answer. Physical activity, it's rewarding, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I will say one thing on the physical activity part is that also was a part of my decision too. I was like, all right, if I do this job, you have to maintain some level of physical fitness throughout your career. So even if I was like, you should, and I was like, that was something that I put on me as like a responsibility. And I was like, all right, doing this job, this is going to be one more thing that like pushes me to still be in shape and train and, push myself. So that is a good point.
Yeah, you kind of don't have a choice, really, do you?
Yeah. Yeah. You shouldn't have a
And
choice. I mean,
no,
yeah.
yeah, and it's good really because I think you find most people in this job enjoy that
Mhm.
side of it, and you enjoy maintaining the physical fitness. I certainly do. I mean, I do have phases where I slack off a little bit, but
Mhm.
generally I do like to keep fit. Uh, yeah, so I guess that leads quite nicely into the next question I wanted to ask you. So, sort of how and why you've combined your passions for exercise, physiology, and firefighting. I imagine the two fit very well together, actually.
Yeah. So I was always even back when I was in high school and wrestling and getting into powerlifting, I was always obsessed with, kind of human performance and health, looking back on it without even kind of realizing it. And we were experimenting, taking, Walmart would sell nitric oxide pills and we would take creatine and anything that would give me like a competitive edge, lifting, at 6 in the morning before high school, like all of these things we were always trying to learn something new and we would see the growth, especially as like a newer trainer, a newer lifter, and you come in and you're making that steady progress and the newbie gains as everybody likes to call it. And that became like an addicting thing for me. And I just became so, kind of engulfed ever since then in trying to educate myself and learn more things. And I did have a kind of pick a path when I got to college where it was a career choice of either going down that road formally or doing the public service route. And at the time I chose public service to then go back and wind up getting my graduate degree sponsored, or the department paid for part of that. So I took advantage of that and went back to school and got that done because it was such a passion of mine. I was like, all right, I want to have the paperwork to show that I am educated on this stuff and I know what I'm doing. Um, so with all that being said, I think that once I got into the field of firefighting and I was able to detach myself, you get through your probationary year, you're able to like take a step back and breathe. I was looking at how the structure, our infrastructure worked, and the culture and kind of what guys did or didn't do, how we were eating. Did guys work out? Did they not work out? And there was cliques of people that definitely trained like on shift, but we didn't really have a standard gym. So there's all these little things that I was kind of putting together in my head. And over time, I was like, this could be better. That could be better. Like, we don't need to be waking up in the middle of the night for calls that we're not going to, because we would have an all tone go out or the whole station would get an alert for one unit, even if you weren't on that unit. So there's these little things like that that started to add up. And so, but once I saw these things, I started putting two and two together with some of the educational background things and sleep health and mental health and physical health and high performance, and tried to make a picture or like a holistic picture of the fire service and where we could make improvements. And obviously every department's slightly different. Every country is going to be slightly different. So you'll have your like contextual things that, departments would have to mold to themselves. But overall, it's still, here's the bigger piece of the puzzle. We have to have guys that are getting adequate sleep off shifts and reducing unnecessary sleep disturbances on shift. Like if they're getting woken up for no reason to not actually serve the public, it's a problem. We need you guys that are healthy and strong. So we're reducing injury rates. They're exercising. They have good cardiovascular and aerobic capacity, and they're also strong because the average, lift assist or equipment load or carry, like you still need to have great strength and mobility to be able to pick some of these people up off the floor. So we kind of just started plugging and playing. I'm like, all right, we could improve here, improve there, improve this. And ultimately, at the end of the day, one of the guys that I've listened to for a long time, his name's Stan Efferding. He did a little bit of nutrition coaching for Brian Shaw and Hafthor Bjornsson from the Game of Thrones. They're some of the strongmen competitors. he's a sharp dude. And one of the things that he had said was, if you want to be healthy, you shouldn't be competing at a high level in athletics. Cause he did the same thing. And he's like, cause you're an athlete. Like, your end goal is not health. Like, you will be sacrificing some of your health to compete at the top end of any sport. Cause that's just what it is.
Yeah. The
Now,
priority is performance, isn't it? There,
it's
not
performance.
health. Yeah.
And there's a little bit of give and take to that. Like, you have to be healthy enough to where you can get to the level of pushing yourself, because if your blood pressure is too high, or you're hurt or sick or injured, like, you can't perform. So, like, there's a balancing act between that, but ultimately super high performance comes at a cost, and you have to maintain a base level of health, but you'll probably be periodizing between, off season phases, competition phases, things of that nature. And I feel like firefighters are a similar context to that, because you are having guys that need to perform well, but they also have to maintain their general health, and they don't have to just maintain it over a short sport career. They have to maintain it over a 20, 30-year career in the fire service. And the job is actively fighting against you. So it's this balancing act of, we need guys to be able to perform, but we also need to maintain their health. So I know that was a long-winded answer to all that, but that's kind of the global perspective of what I take on it, is acute performance while maintaining guys' long-term health.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think what stood out to me there is there's no off season, is there? With firefighting, it's
Mhm.
continuous maintenance. And I think that's, like you said, there's with athletic performance, the goal is it's performance over health, but you have the periods where you can slack off and focus on your health, and then when the on season comes back around, you then back on
Yeah.
performance. Whereas firefighting, you need to maintain that base level of health
Yes.
continuously for 20, 30, even 40 years in some cases. So you maybe you have to sacrifice a little bit the performance there, and we're a jack of all trades, aren't we, really? And I think
Mhm.
that even that maybe that
Physical
sort of
fitness. Yeah.
relates to physical fitness as well, just trying to sort of spread yourself as best as you can over all the areas that we're expected to function in, rather than
Yeah.
just going hell for leather in one area like you would for
Yeah.
with powerlifting, for example,
Uh-huh. I love that saying. That's cool.
which you obviously couldn't sustain
Yeah.
for 30 years, could you? So
No, no. And,
yeah,
I've been away from the sport competitively for 5 years now. And if I hadn't stepped away from the sport, I wouldn't have developed Carna bunker gear. I wouldn't have maybe gone down this rabbit hole of chasing this educational background for the fire service, and trying to do all these things, because it gave me some more time to look at myself and look at what I was doing at a career perspective. But yeah, for firefighters, we need to be able to maintain some stuff, and there's ways that you can program that exercise wise and training wise, to where maybe if you're deficit in some specific area, you spend a little bit more time there and maintain the other qualities. And then once you're kind of up to date or up to speed on all of these physical fitness qualities, you can kind of maintain them or plug and play, more volume in some areas than the other. And one of the prime examples is one of my former lieutenants. He's a battalion chief now. He was qualified for the Boston Marathon, and he wasn't very, weight strong or physically big, but he was a elite endurance runner. And then you have me on the other side of the spectrum, where I didn't run at all, but I was elite strength and strength athlete. And both of us were able to, do our job and maintain and perform. But I did a little bit of cardio. He would do a
yeah,
little bit of weights in the off season. But you're not going to, send him to pick up a 300-pound guy. Like, I'll go do that.
yeah, yeah,
He'll go crawl in the attic and search for hot spots and stuff like that. So
yeah.
yeah,
I
but
think that's the beautiful thing about this job is you've got such a wide array of skills and characteristics, and you tend to have somebody that suits.
mhm.
There'll be somebody for every single part of this job. I think somebody that
Yes,
will excel or specialize or just naturally be good at a certain
yeah,
area that maybe somebody else falls down a little bit in. And I mean that's how a team functions, isn't it? Well, you pick each other up and you complement each other, and yeah, I think it's quite a thing to observe sometimes in this job or be part of.
yeah. It's a beautiful part of the fire service for sure, is the fraternity of it, and your brothers and sisters, and being able to plug and play and put the right people in the right places.
Yeah. So you're saying about, you noticed all the areas that need improvement, need changing. Have you been able to implement some change in your department then? Have they
Mm.
sort of worked
Yeah.
with you on implementing certain initiatives and things like that?
Yeah, we've done a few things, and granted, with all this, it's always a little bit of a slower process than what I would like. As somebody who also works in like the private industry, where I'm like, I need results, and we make changes immediately. Where sometimes it takes a little bit more. It's a little more red tape with
Yeah, yeah, it's
the
very
department.
slow in the fire services.
Yeah,
It must be the same over there. It does feel like change can take forever over
right.
here because there's so many different channels it needs to go through, and
Yes,
yeah, it's
and you've got to
exhausting.
just you've got to justify why we're doing it, show why we're doing it. And I get it, but
Yeah,
Um, yeah, we've done some cool stuff. So one of the major things that I put in for in 2017, I think, was for us to switch away from that all tone system to where the entire station was getting woken up for all the calls. That just got implemented this past year. So
okay,
that was a long, long process, but it also was a capital budget issue where the police department was tied in with us on the CAD system. So that, long story short, that took a while to get done, but that was a giant win and a giant hurdle for us as a individual department. Some other departments have that already. So we went to the Phoenix, Phoenix system to where you can pick the apparatus you basically have a tablet on your wall and you pick the apparatus that you're on for that day. So you only
right.
hear those tones.
So it
So
specifically alerts your room that you're in for a
yeah.
specific appliance that you're on, for example.
Yeah. So if you're on
Right.
the
Oh,
rescue that day,
yeah.
you will just keep the rescue tones on and you turn the engine off. So if the engine has a fire alarm at 3 a.m, or vice versa, you're on the engine and rescue, you're only hearing the tones that you go to, and just reducing what I would like to call unnecessary sleep disturbances
Yep.
is a huge, huge thing. So you want to look at things like that. Like, can you physically upgrade your bunker room? Like, there's guys, do you have individual rooms? Is it dark? Is the AC working? What is the tone system like? So there's all these like minute details. How's the bed? Is the bed a piece of crap, or is it actually a comfortable bed that the guys can get some sleep in? So there's a lot of like maybe common sense things that maybe we overlook or guys get used to. They're like, oh, like I just don't sleep good that night at work, whatever. So that's one of the things. Um, we've done improvement. We've had gyms installed in all of the stations with like Rogue equipment or Rep One to like good quality racks, dumbbells, barbells, stuff like that. I've changed a few SOGs recently that's in the process of going through. So just some simple things like walking out of structure fire, and instead of going directly to gross decon, opening up the jacket and opening up your pants while staying on air. And what that's shown in one study in particular, they do need to replicate it, but it just makes so much sense. I'm not waiting for them to replicate this data. You open up that jacket and pant and allow the VOCs that have accumulated to off gas quickly. So you're allowing all the particulates that have gotten up in between you and your bunker gear to off gas rapidly instead of you standing in it for a little bit longer. So just small things like that I
Yeah.
think they add up. And that's really what the picture of it is for firefighter health, is these small little things that we can change that add up into a bigger cumulative picture.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many little wins we can get with not much
Mhm.
effort, to be honest. And that, yeah, I'd not even thought about that, to be honest. Just letting it, yeah, just open up and let it all off gas, but stay on air.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
do you know what? That's great. That, I mean, we have little procedures and things like we will take our flasher will come off before
Yes. While
we
staying
take the
on air.
mask off, and then
Mhm.
depending on the level of contamination, we might do what we call a dry peel, which is where everything will come off, and you'll sort of take all your kit off, leave it on the floor, and then your last thing to come off is your mask as you step away
Yes.
from everything. And
Yeah.
we tend to do that for things like asbestos, and if we're
Mhm.
really contaminated from a fire. But there are certainly things like what you've just mentioned that we could be doing over in this
Yeah.
country that we're not yet really.
And there's really been, and honestly, that's something that is, it's really unheard of. Like, it's not popular. I think I'm the only one. I'm the only one that I've personally heard talk about it. I read the study as you got to go through and read some of the book and some of the background material. So like, I've just kind of accumulated a lot of research over a couple years to where first off, I was verifying that the other obvious thing, the Carna bunker gear concept came from going to school and seeing kind of a void in the industry of, hey, we're training in this bunker gear that's contaminated. Why are we doing this when we can just be wearing something that's similar to bunker gear that does all of the same bulk, weight, and thermal retention? And it looks like bunker gear, it functions like bunker gear, except that it's never getting contaminated. So when I was diving into all that research to just verify that it works and that the concept is a good idea before I invested my time and energy and money into it,
Yeah.
I was looking and reading through all these things, and I just would happen to come across a study that they were referencing in a study that I was already reading. And then I'd go read that one, and then I'd go read another one, and all this stuff kind of accumulated to where I just kind of stumbled upon a lot of interesting studies that helped me shape some of these things. And that happened to be one of them and that's a free change. Like opening up your pant and coats is not something that costs the department a dime. It's literally just telling the guys how to do it, making sure they stay on air, and there's no risk to it at all. It's just a reward. So those are the things I try and do. Is it's like, hey, here's some things that were like that might require a budget item, like a line item for your budget, like changing the dispatch or getting mattresses or getting training gear or whatever. And then here's some free things like opening up your bunker gear. If you're in a really bad fire for a while and you have the ability to, throw the clothes out that you're wearing underneath the bunker gear out. You're going to wear that again for what reason? Like, it's a t-shirt, dude. So if the department can give you another t-shirt for, pennies on the dollar, why even take the risk? So you'll see a lot of reoccurring themes with some of the stuff I talk about is it's like unnecessary. We take risks that are necessary and that we are weighing the risk to reward ratio. I'm trying to eliminate as many unnecessary risks as possible. And I think there's a lot of things that we can do for that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I've had jobs where the t-shirt I've worn underneath is that contaminated, and it's, I've thought I just get rid of it because
Yeah.
it is. I thought I'm not going to, even if you wash it, how clean is it going to get? Is it going to contaminate everything else that you're washing it with? Yeah, just for the sake of a t-shirt, just get rid of it.
Yeah. Especially if the department pays for it. I'm like, just get a new t-shirt. It's fine. It's part of the job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree absolutely. So the concept for the kind of bunker gear, did that? So how have you sort of developed and run with that? Then it sounds like you're doing quite a lot with it.
Yeah, we're so about 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, we went public with it, but it's been in development for like 3 years. So I want to say that I was a little bit ahead of the curve with the PFAS stuff just because of me reading the literature and being a health nerd. I was aware of the PFAS in our pans and pots and pans and cooking utensils and the groundwater. And I was aware that it was in the bunker gear. So I started to put two and two together, at least with, hey, this it looks like it's starting to become a problem. Once I started seeing it on national news medias and newspapers and stuff like that, I was like, okay, this is probably a beginning of a cultural change in the fire service. I wanted to develop this product regardless, but I saw that it looked like it would be something that the rest of the fire service or some firefighters and fire departments might also be interested in. And I think that PFAS, I want to say like revolution or shining the light on that kind of was the beginning of that. But again, going through all the research, there's known carcinogens that firefighters are exposed to all the time. PAHs or polyaromatic hydrocarbons are one of the well-documented chemicals that has been an occupational cancer since the late 1800s. And that was actually found in England in chimney sweeps.
Yep.
So young boys that were sweeping chimneys, they were having high rates of testicular cancer. Now, we've known that for hundreds of years, and we have a plethora of evidence and documentation that shows that's a known carcinogen that's on our gear all the time. You've got potential carcinogens like flame retardants, microplastics, the known like PFAS, SVOCs that are different kinds of pHs and vice versa. They're kind of a family together. And different molecular weights to where you have those VOCs that are lightweight and they like to off gas fairly quickly. And then you have the heavier things like the SVOCs and the PAHs that they get on the skin and they'll begin to be dermally absorbed through the skin very quickly and also slowly. So over the period of 6 hours, you can absorb like up to 50% of a moderate dose pH that's been on your skin. So that's where some of the gross decon stuff comes in. And reading all this literature, I was like, all right, well, we're wearing our bunker gear. and we're training in it during times that you don't need thermal protection. You're just forcing a door or throwing a ladder or doing something outside that's teaching the probie or doing something, right? Like you're just doing a training ground drill. And football players and sports athletes, they don't play with their game day equipment. Like they play with training equipment, or they don't do all out stuff. Like they're using things that are trying to mitigate their chance to get injured. And the military does the same thing. They're not shooting live rounds every time they go into a shooting drill.
Yeah, it's a good analogy, actually, that.
Yeah. So that was kind of what I thought about. And I was like, hey, from a sports performance background, I'm like, all we need is something that mimics bunker gear. So if we can do that and have guys wear those, and the other side of it is kind of a cost benefit to the departments. It's an upfront cost, but on the back end, if you're not tearing up your expensive frontline gear, you're not having to repurchase that as quickly. So it essentially could pay for itself if you get another year or two out of your frontline gear while simultaneously not hurting the user and the wearer, and also kind of encouraging training. So if you've got something that you have no risk to put on and go outside and do some drills, that's not in guys' heads where they're like, well, should I put my coat on and pack out today and go do something in the bay? Like I might be hurting myself. Like, is it worth it? And so you have some of those thoughts that I think this can kind of put to bed or put to rest a little bit in guys' heads and their psyche. So anyways, there's a lot of layers to it, but I think this is another thing where it's an unnecessary risk training in your frontline gear all the time. There's a lot of benefits to it. And for that reason, we've kind of just dived deep into it and put a lot of time and effort and energy into it. And we're still trying to figure out marketing and telling people that the idea is out there. But I appreciate guys like you and everybody that allow me to just talk about it a little bit and let guys know that there is a alternative for us now, because previously there was not one.
Yeah, no, great. It does sound like there's a definite gap in the market there. I mean, I see, you see videos, people like to post videos on social media, don't they, of them working out in the gear, and they've got filthy
Yeah.
gear on, and they've got a BA set on the back, and that's probably not been cleaned properly as well, and you just think, like, do you really want to be working out in that, like, or even training in it? I mean, like you
Yeah.
say, if you can use your gear that's PFAS free to go out and train in the drill yard, I think like you say, it's the small things that add up and make the difference. I think any opportunity you can take to reduce your risk or reduce your exposure,
Yeah.
all adds up over time, doesn't it? Especially over a several decades long career.
Yes, absolutely.
I think it's just about people being receptive to it.
Yeah. And that's one of the things where I'm like, I kind of see where there wasn't maybe the data for it prior, because we were wearing SCBAs and we thought a lot of the contamination was coming from inhalatory stuff. But now within the past 10 years or so, we're seeing that dermal absorption is such a key player in the remaining elevated rates of fire cancer or firefighter cancer rates. So yeah, just eliminating some of those PAHs, heavy metals, flame retardants, PFAS, and PFAS also is coming from the structure burns that you're going into. Like there's PFAS coated things and materials in the structure fire. So it's not just on the bunker gear from creation. It's also from the combustion that you're going into, and some of those byproducts. So yeah, it's a lot of things accumulated into one. And actually, while we're on the subject, before I forget, there's been some cool studies that come out of England too. So props to you guys. And this was one of them that I used that I'd like to talk about. Was they looked at 2 or 3 stations. I'd have to pull it up and look to see where it was in England, but they looked at 2 or 3 stations, and they made a statistical calculation, and they tested the gear, their clothing, and the apparatus. So they swabbed the equipment, looked to see how much contamination was on it, pHs, things of that nature. They looked at a 20 to 30 year career, and they basically just made a statistical calculation to estimate how many firefighters would get cancer from dermal absorption from PAHs, from touching the equipment or contaminated clothing, gear, etc. The contaminated clothing would be on a scale of 100,000, 350 firefighters would get cancer from touching or wearing contaminated clothing. 230 would get cancer from touching a dirty apparatus. So that's one chemical they were looking at, pH, or one family of chemicals, pHs, and one route of exposure doing something that's benign. You're sitting and touching the apparatus with your arm, like the interior door arm, the armrest, and wearing your clothes and bunker gear. Nothing else. You're not in a fire. You're not actively doing anything. Like, so to
Yeah.
me, that was another study that I thought was just super, super relevant to it.
I think was it quite a recent one? Was it last few years?
It was within the
Or
last few years, yeah.
It might have been UCLan, University of Central Lancashire. I know
Yeah.
they've done some studies recently, and they've done some surveys. They surveyed 10,000 firefighters in the
good.
UK a few years ago. It was largely around culture as well, and what people believe, and how long they've been in, and what how many have got cancer at the moment. I think, and it came out. I can't remember the exact statistics, but there was some. It was quite a sizable number that either have or have had cancer, that are currently serving UK firefighters. So it's largely around trying to change the culture as well, I think. But they've done a lot of work, and that work is ongoing. And we're trying to get as well at the moment. A lot of the work they're doing is working towards trying to implement presumptive legislation in the UK, because it's something that we still haven't got. So it's just, I think with that, it just gives firefighters a bit of insurance and a bit more backup, and I think that would inevitably lead to more legislative changes that would ultimately sort of filter down into the different services that we've got, and hopefully provide more funding to enable those changes as well, because a lot of it does come down to cost, I think, a lot of the time, which is unfortunate, but it's just the way it is, I think.
I think that's such an important thing, is like feeling like your community and your government and your state and your city and all that support you. And I feel like when just, people in general, but especially first responders, where you're putting so much on the line, to try and help yourself and help others. And they're just, if they're not seeing that, and you don't feel respected, or that they have your health interest in mind, like you're just another number. I think that's where a lot of the disconnect and the negativity comes from, and how guys kind of feel rejected and not cared for. Like, why am I sacrificing my life for you when you don't care about me? So I hope that you guys can get that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people join the job, especially, you go back 20 years, a lot of people join the job not knowing what the risks were, and then they've got so far into the career and, oh, right, I wasn't aware of these dangers to me, and right, what can we do about it? And they're kind of limited to what they can do about it, but it's still, they're still being told that this is a real risk. So I absolutely agree. You can see where that disconnect, and maybe that, even to some degree, that level of apathy comes from, because what's the alternative, really? You either do what you can, and you take reasonable steps without letting yourself get too concerned with it, or you just completely block it out, which I think a lot of people do because they're afraid to acknowledge, and understandably so. They don't want to acknowledge the damage that they possibly have already done. So I do think that's where a lot of it comes from. Yeah, absolutely.
No, I hope you guys can get that done, and I think it would be a great win for you guys over there for sure. Me too. It's important. It's important.
Yeah, me too. So I wanted to look at your book that you've written as well.
Yeah.
So I read the sample that you sent me. So the book is The Essential Guide for Firefighter Health and Performance.
Yes, thank you.
And I did pick up, there was a couple of quotes that really stuck out to me that I just wanted to
He's like,
at.
oh man, this has 200 citations and a lot of big words in it. I did not sign up to read this.
No, it was great. It was great.
Thank you.
It was very on the nail. So you said basically that
I had to pull up my book again because I hadn't read it in a while, and I'm like, oh, I need to get a refresher on this before he pop quizzes me on it.
So you don't forget what you've written. Yeah. So there was one that really stuck out. So it said, firefighters are dying at higher relative rates to both cancer and heart disease than the general public. Not only are firefighters diagnosed or dying more from the leading chronic disease states, but cancer is actually the number one killer of firefighters, opposed to cancer being the second cause of death to the general public. This statistic demonstrates just how dangerous cancer in the fire service is. So that kind of goes hand in hand with what we've just been saying, and I think the fact that it's kind of reversed in terms of what it is to the general public, it does show that what a real what a
what a liability
disproportionate
is.
risk, what a disproportionate risk we're facing. So I guess, I mean, we'll get into, you know, the risks and sort of the preventative actions we can take. I know we've discussed some of them, but sort of more of the preventative actions. But I also wanted to acknowledge another one that you said. Basically, you said at the start of it, that basically you've said your calling is to write this book and help facilitate access to information and current, future, and overall health and job performance. And you've said if this book helps just one person, then it was worth writing. That really stuck out to me because I think it shows how much you care, and it shows that you know you're doing what you're doing for the right reasons. And you've also said about maximising each firefighter's opportunity to retire and enjoy the fruits of their labour after years of public service, which is something that's kind of very reflective of why I'm doing the podcast as well, because I want people to be able to, you know, you spend decades working in a job where you're primarily looking after other people, and you should get a long, healthy, full retirement. And so, you know, I think what you're doing, you're obviously trying to encourage that and help people to achieve that. So for me, that was something that really stuck out with the book, because maybe not a lot of people think that, or maybe not a lot of people think that far ahead, but I think it's so important that you get that back at the end of your career, and you get a long retirement, and you're able to spend the time that you've earned putting the hours and the years into the job, really.
No, thank you, man. That you took all the heavy hitters for sure, from the books and a few of those quotes. So I appreciate you picking up on those details. And yeah, I mean, and that's for real. I mean, can't tell you how many hundreds of hours, thousands of hours I spent writing that, but if it just helps a couple guys, then it's worth every time I spent on there. And I feel like it's the same thing for most guys. You know, if you train for 10 years or 15 or 25 years or whatever it is, or 10 months, and you save somebody's life, I mean, that's worth it. So that's what I want to give that same feeling back to our brothers and sisters, and, you know, show them that somebody does care. And like, I'm trying to help the fire service itself and help us, because we're so busy trying to help other people that I think a lot of guys neglect some of their own, you know, health and that aspect of it. So, and one of the, well, three, I guess, because it was three people at the beginning of the book, I mentioned them, but it was one of my kind of mentors, and then two of the older firefighters that also helped me at the department as well. Two of them passed away from cancer within 2 years of retiring. And I watched that happen, and that hit me really hard. And then one of the guys who was he was 10 years ahead of me. So he'd been there for a long time. He really helped me out through my probationary time. I had a little bit of a hard time. I'm a little hard headed, and was having a hard time with probation and playing that game a little bit. So he really helped me figure that out and help push me forward. And he saw a lot of potential in me, and he passed away with a stroke, from going to shift from high blood pressure.
Right.
So all of these things within the book, that's where I spend so much time focusing on preventative type things between cancer and cardiac.
Yeah.
And he was young. I mean, he was probably my age now, 35 to 40. And
Wow. God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those were kind of the things that hit me, that like, these aren't just numbers. Like, these are people that I know that sacrificed or spent so much time at the fire department and in the service to help others, and they weren't able to, you know, see that retirement date and get to enjoy what they've worked so hard for. So I think that when guys put in that much time, and, you know, everybody kind of knows when you come into the fire service that you're going to maybe potentially, and be okay with it, risk your life to save someone else's. And I think a lot of people are fine with that, like that balance. But when you sign up and you don't know that you might pass away from cancer in a year after you retire, that isn't a risk. That's not a risk that I think a lot of guys sign up for or that are okay with. So
no, absolutely not.
That's just kind of my perspective on it, that I'm like, hey, this is here. Let's try and figure out how to work through it and prevent some of these things. So, and there's room for improvement, man. There really is. So that's what I get optimistic about is we didn't know stuff before. We've learned more things. Let's make changes and let's do it quickly.
Yeah, man, awesome. I totally agree. There's always room for improvement, and there's always, you know, little things that we can do each day that will add up. And yeah, yeah, people, you don't think about that when you sign. You know, when you're
Yeah.
20, 25, even 30 years old, and you're signing up for this job. That's not what you think you're signing up for, do you really? And
No.
yeah, so I think, you know, if your book can help one person, if this conversation can help one person, I think it's just, yeah, it's worth it all day long.
Yeah.
So
I
is
do.
your
Yeah. Go
no,
ahead.
sorry,
Sorry.
go on.
I was just saying I need to get this put together in a format for hard copy. Right now it's just the Kindle or no, the online Amazon version. So I do need to get this formatted so we can actually sell like a hard copy book.
Yeah,
Because I like real books. I'm not a huge fan of the ebook stuff, but that is
yeah.
the one thing I've been slacking on and I need to get done. So I'll get on that ASAP.
That was my next question. Actually, was this? Have
Yeah.
you got any plans for? Let me know when you do, because I'll be ordering a copy definitely.
Yes,
So
I'm actually going to talk to one of my friends this week who he's published, Josh Bryant. I've been working with him as a coach now for a couple of weeks, but I've known him for a long time, many years. He's a big powerlifting coach. He's produced some of the best bench presses in the world, but he's written a ton of books.
yeah.
So I'm going to ask him what his publishing route was and all that, and I'll get that done quickly because I'll have somebody that can point me the right direction in an expedient manner.
Yeah, cool, nice.
Yeah.
So we sort of off the back of the book and sort of the reasons for writing the book. Then I guess what I wanted to discuss as well. What are the biggest risks that we face as firefighters? I know we've talked about the cancer risk and heart disease. So rather than just sort of, you know, sort of focusing on what these risks are, really, what can we as firefighters do about these risks? What, you know, if people are listening to this, what are the little things that we can do each day, and the big things that we can do, just to make that difference, and I guess make an attempt to bulletproof ourselves, for lack of a better phrase, really going forwards through the years.
No, it's a great phrase. I like that term. So obviously the book was kind of broken up into just like general health fitness stuff and then cardiac and cancer. So general health and fitness things, foundational, just individual human, like we need to be active. And one of the things we look at is non-exercise activity. So just walking, movement, getting up, doing things, not just sitting around all day. If you are using your phone, like a lot of the phones have fitness apps now. So usually a good threshold is like 7, 8, more like 8,000 steps a day. If you're hitting somewhere around there, like it's a pretty good range. If you get to 10,000 and then 12,000 and up, you're going to see still improvements from 8,000 on. It's just not going to be as exponentially important, or it's not going to continue to raise at an exponential rate. It kind of tapers off there a little bit. But yeah, I mean, moving in general is something that's super simple and easy to track now with the smart watches and all those things. Exercise, some form of exercise. I mean, you can exercise every day depending on the intensity. So if you're not killing yourself and doing everything super as an athlete would, where they're really trying to force adaptations, you could do low intensity exercise almost every single day. And I always recommend a combination of resistance weight training and some kind of cardiovascular exercise, whether that's steady state or hit circuit style things. And if you just get out of breath once or twice a week, like huffing and puffing, do something for an extended period of time, exercise continuously for 20 to 60 minutes at like some kind of cardio modality, and lift some weights and, you know, push your muscles to close to failure with some full body exercises, you are 80-90% of the way there. And you don't have to think about much at all aside just do a couple of those things. You know, twice a week steady state, twice a week hit, twice a week lifting weights, and you would be the most well-rounded general person that you can be and not have a lot of thought into it. So that would cause a lot of the positive downstream benefits for both cancer and cardiovascular disease risks and reduction of obesity, improvement in mental health. There's so many things that like if you were to tell someone or give someone a pill and say, hey, this is the fountain of youth, like that's what exercise is. And we will never be able to fit that into a pill the same way that you can't just take a greens powder and extract all of the benefits from fruits and vegetables into a powder or supplement. Like it just doesn't happen that way. You have all these things that are occurring from actually eating the whole fruit and whole vegetable that are not occurring when you're just taking the supplement. You can't just extract fiber from something and have all of these positive benefits from it the same way as the actual whole sources. So overall, please exercise right, and then leading into the nutrition aspect of it, just maintaining a healthy body weight, man. Like doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to be on an extreme diet or keto or carnivore or any of that nonsense. Um, Keto is not nonsense in some particular aspects, but I don't really like carnivore. Um, you can just maintain your body weight and try and reduce body fat. And
Yeah.
going from, you don't have to be shredded. That's where people kind of get confused, is like just a healthy male. If you're like around 15% body fat, like you've pretty much gotten the vast majority of the benefit of being lean. You don't have to have a six pack. You just don't need to be overweight and obese. Like you can have a little bit of fluff on you. It's totally fine. And that's really the studies don't really show that you get a whole lot more improvement getting leaner. So that's another simple thing there. Cardiovascular and cancer wise, doing screenings, like medical screenings. And that's going to come from, I would say, mainly blood work for a lot of the cardiac modalities, along with some either a calcium score or a CT angiogram. Those have, the calcium score has the ability to look at hardened plaque, while the CT angiogram is a step up. It's basically a contrast dye that can look at if there is soft plaque in the vessels. So the CT angiogram is a little bit of a better diagnostic tool. It's a little bit slightly more invasive and a little bit more expensive, but it's definitely within reason still. And the rest of the things you want to look at on that end are going to be cholesterol, triglycerides, your metabolic profiles, blood pressure, things of that nature. Try and reduce the LDL as low as possible. Try and have HDL as high as possible.
What was that?
And
Reduce the what? Sorry.
sorry. I think you guys still call it the same low density lipids, LDL. You guys,
Oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah,
okay. So you guys have different numbers than we do, but I was just making sure the particle was still called the same thing over there. So
yeah, yeah.
apolipoprotein B or LDL, all of those are good metrics to look at for cardiovascular disease risk. Cancer is a little bit trickier. Like I said, and that's kind of where the exercise and reduction in body weight comes into play, because a lot of cancers do kind of come from metabolic. Some of them, they can be influenced or negatively affected by metabolic dysfunction or obesity. So obesity is a giant factor for cardiovascular disease and cancer. So it's kind of one of those things where if you're not overweight, you're taking care of a lot of these giant health risks to general population and firefighters. But aside from that, maybe the genetic screening that's being kind of played with right now, if we can, I could see in the future that potentially firefighters using some kind of genetic testing as a when they're an incoming firefighter. Usually you'll get some kind of screening for like lung capacity and checking your weight and your all these things that they're normal doctor screenings to make sure that you're healthy. I could potentially see that being one of the things where, hey, we use this to see if somebody has at a genetic disadvantage for particular types of cancers before they ever get into the fire service. Because some of these things really are just genetic based. And if the environment is activating those genetics, or you're going into, fires a few times a year, or a few times a month, you are going to be increasing your risks for something that you're already at a higher risk of. So that's something that I don't know if we can do yet application wise, but I could see that being a part of the future, potentially in the fire service.
Yeah, so I think I think that's what Tonya mentioned when
Okay.
we were talking. Is that to do with epigenetics and
Yes.
being, so say, me or you may be more susceptible to one type
Hmm.
of cancer than another, and you've got no idea basically. So you're just better off just trying to take a preventative approach in
Yeah,
general, I guess, aren't you? Because it's Russian roulette, really, isn't it?
it is. Yeah. And actually another thing that's kind of overlooked, but really is such a good lever to pull within the nutritional realm is fiber. Fiber helps reduce all kinds of like stomach and intestinal colon cancers, all of those, that whole area. Fiber is so important to do that. And it also helps reduce the LDL cholesterol because it binds the cholesterol. It doesn't let it get re-released into the bloodstream. So that's another giant thing, is like making sure, if I could go into a firehouse and wave a magic wand for what guys are eating at lunch and dinner, I would put fiber on their plates. Everything else is, I would lower saturated fat a little bit, but I would really wave the fiber wand, because that's something to where, if you're not intentionally trying to eat healthy and like put fiber in your diet, if you're eating what they call the standard American diet, which is a lot of processed bread, things that are void of fiber, like the fiber has been pulled from it, you're not going to get it. So if you're not intentionally eating fruits and vegetables, you're not intentionally getting whole wheat things or things of that nature that are a little bit more complex carbs with fibers in them, you're not going to hit it. And it's not just going to magically appear on your plate if you're getting burgers and fries. So
Yeah. Good advice. Great advice.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I was going to ask you about this later on, actually, about building a healthy foundation, really. But I think this is we're kind of talking along those lines, really. And I think this is gonna help you build that foundation for when you do retire, isn't it? I think, and there's so many people that I think they retire, and the culture shock is one thing, going from doing this job for 30 years to not doing it. I think the culture shock is one thing, and can have a negative effect on us by itself. But I think that the way that this job negatively affects your body and your mind is something that, again, once you come out, you probably don't realize how much of a beating that you've taken until you stop doing it, really, and your body's able to sort of relax and take stock, and it's like, wow, yeah, I have absolutely battered myself for the last 3 decades. So I think everything you're saying is it's gonna help us combat the risks that, like you say, this job is constantly trying to hurt us, really, and it's just about trying to offset that, isn't it, really, for us as much as you can.
And one of the just kind of giving a cool little tidbit for how effective exercise is with some of the sleep deprivation issues that we encounter. So one cool study was they looked at college age males, and I believe they were doing a spin bike exercise. They basically had them do the spin bike exercise, full night's sleep. The other group was spin bike exercise, 4 hours of sleep, or like a lot of reduced sleep. It was a very small window of sleep. And the other one was no exercise in that 4 windows of sleep. The no exercise group had no exercise group with sleep deprivation had the highest levels of blood glucose the following day. They weren't able to regulate blood glucose as well. Whereas the exercise group with sleep deprivation was, I want to say it was about half, but it was in the middle between full sleep night and exercise and bad sleep night with no exercise. So using exercise as a preventative tool to just help regulate blood glucose and regulate your metabolism and have some of these cellular shifts kind of skew back towards a healthier person, you're helping to kind of mitigate that and buffer some of the negative side effects that are coming from the sleep deprivation and all that. So the optimal thing obviously is get full sleep and exercise. The next optimal step is exercise with whatever sleep you can get. Yeah. And then the worst thing that you can do is not exercise and not sleep. So I hope that kind of gives guys a little bit of a perspective of like, even if you're not getting a good night's sleep, exercise is still helping you. It's still beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does ring a bell, actually. Was it about high intensity training and
yes.
and the way it because it puts you into Ep6, doesn't it? What is it? Exercise post
exercise oxygen consumption.
Yes.
And
it can put you into quite a productive state for, is it about 48 hours? It can have.
Yeah, but even with, I think that the Ep6 is a little bit over exaggerated because you elevate it really rapidly with the HIIT exercise. But then it still comes back down where you're still getting elevation from steady state stuff too. I don't like to get wrapped up in those weeds. I think people they get too convoluted with I mean, there's a reason that we're trying to figure out the why behind things,
Yeah.
but one of the epoch thing is just all you need to do is exercise and get to the point. That's why I say the get out of breath, because that's what high intensity is. And that's really what we're looking for, is that
Yeah.
maximal heart rate to where you're at like 90 to 100% of your maximal heart rate target zone. If you can do that and you are huffing and puffing, that is the most optimal way that you can basically train aerobic fitness, because you're tapped out. The reason that we have to do some of the steady state stuff is because you can't do that all the time. So the steady state adds in that volume, but you're
Yeah.
still getting mitochondrial improvement. You're still getting improvement in the elasticity of the vessels. So it's allowing the heart to pump more efficiently. So that's why I break it down to make it easier. It's like, get really out of breath sometimes and do something where you're not out of breath and do it for a long period of time. So they're both beneficial and they both have really good benefits to them. So I just like to keep it dummy proof for us.
Yeah. I think it's about keeping it simple, isn't it? And it's easier to follow, and it's kind of, I think the more complicated it is, the more likely people are to look away, really.
Yeah.
So it's like, sleep, exercise, diet, I guess all the obvious shit that you would try and do to stay healthy anyway. I guess it's
Yeah.
just even more vital for us, because we've got all this other stuff that is just constantly acting against us, really.
Mhm. Yeah.
I watched some of your seminar that you
Oh, nice.
sent me as well, and I thought there was some interesting stuff in there. That you kicked it off by saying, we want to reduce risk in the fire service while optimizing performance. I think
Mhm.
that was one of the things that stuck out at me, and that's it, really, isn't it? In a nutshell,
Yeah,
that's what we need to do. But I think the difference is that your life depends on it as well, doesn't it? With
for
this
sure.
job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to, while we touched on that, do you want to talk about any of the overexertion stuff, like how we should work out on shift?
Yeah, do you know what? Absolutely, because there is. I've seen people talking about what. So what level do you push yourself if you are? Because I've had workouts in the gym at work where I've probably pushed myself too far, and I mean it happened recently. We were doing a leg heavy workout on station, and then
Mhm.
we got a call to a high rise building on the 10th floor.
Oh,
So
wow.
we've just done quite a heavy workout. Fortunately, we were only about halfway through, and then the bells have gone. And right, we've got a job on the 10th floor of a high rise building. Fortunately, it was just someone had burnt some cooking and set their alarm off, and it wasn't a proper job. But
Mhm.
I was struggling going up those stairs. So yeah,
Yeah, dude. That's a great example. Yeah, I think we've all been there, or similar circumstance where you're kind of at that oh shit moment where you have a little bit of butt pucker
yeah,
when the call drops. So Dr. Abel from University of Kentucky, he's done some really awesome research in the fire service, and one of the studies that they looked at was, this actually occurred over a couple of years, but it was the same population, the same fire department he was looking at, and they basically did like a job specific combat challenge type thing where they would do like a search pattern, carry some things, pull a hose, stairs, like the typical things that you would do in some kind of job assessment. And they did a couple different exercises. So they did a circuit. It was just military press, deadlift, and it was like 2 sets of 10 at a 15 rep max weight or something along those lines. So it was like moderate weight, 10 reps, nothing crazy, lat pull down, overhead press, things like that, like full body circuit, and then a little bit of incline treadmill in between the 2 rounds. I think it was a 15-minute workout. Solid on shift workout. I liked it. They saw the guys that did the workout and did the combat challenge, if we want to call it that, compared to the guys that did not work out because they wanted to save themselves on shift. So they weren't big on like exercising. They just wanted to be ready if a call dropped. The guys that worked out on shift had a 10% reduction in their time to completion of the combat challenge. So they were slower 10 minutes after than had they not worked out. They were still faster than 70% of the guys that did not work out on
Yep.
shift,
Okay.
because those guys weren't working out at all or very little. They just weren't in great shape. And I want to say 6 out of the 40 some dudes that didn't work out couldn't even complete the firefighter combat challenge or the task that they were doing. So you've got this onion here of like, okay, we see that working out and having guys in shape is obviously good. Refocus to a few months later, they're actively personal training these firefighters at the station. And he said that he saw a few times where he was pushing them and they got a call and they had to go to something. And he's like, he looked over at his other trainer and he was like, are we doing the right thing here? Like, are they look kind of smoked. Like, I hope that we're not causing harm to this call. So they did another study and they looked at a high intensity, basically a CrossFit circuit. And it was as many rounds as possible, like a rower, deadlifts, clean, something like that. Basically a CrossFit workout for the same period of time. It was also a 15-minute workout. Do it as fast as you can, go as hard as you can, get through it. That workout, 10 minutes post, they were 50% slower. So they almost increased, like, if they did the course in 5 minutes, they did it in 7.5 minutes. So they were half as fast as what they would have been had they not worked out. So you see this variation in intensity of like, okay, that workout where they were like 10% slower, it's doable, like it's tolerable. But when guys are redlining and they're absolutely pushing themselves to the brink and the limit, they are really, really, really affecting their performance if they get toned out to something, right away or 10 minutes after. I think within 60 minutes after, they were back to that 10% reduction in timeline. So
Okay.
there's this scale to work within. And I just kind of tell guys, I'm like, hey, we obviously know that working out's important. We know that you are going to be a better firefighter. You as an individual will be a better version of yourself if you are in better shape. You know where your red line is. Don't cross that red line. Go up to it to where you feel comfortable while you're on shift. If you need to cross that red line, do that off shift. So you're doing your super high intensity anaerobic stuff, really pushing yourself, balls to the wall. I think I might die lying on the floor trying to catch my breath.
Yeah.
Do that off shift. So,
Yeah.
or
Cool.
coming off shift in the morning where you're already at the station and before you leave, if you work out at the station, trying to optimize guys' time to where they're not going home and getting wrapped up in the day or taking care of the kids or whatever, like trying to still allow them to get the workout in a time frame that works for them. But that was something that was super relevant. I try and talk about that a lot because there are dudes that are possibly doing too much. And at the same token, I'm like, okay, also realize that the guys that are in really good shape are going to recover quicker and they're going to be able to perform better. They're just not going to be as optimal as they would be individually. So that's why I kind of just leave it to the recommendation from before. So
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So it's generally work out on shift, but
yeah,
just don't go mental, basically. Yeah. Save that for when you're at home or just your off days. Yeah, I think
yes,
we've all had workouts at work where we've pushed it too far,
mm-hmm.
definitely. But yeah, when you're laying on the floor and you can't breathe, and that's not when you want the bells to go, is it? So
No,
yeah, I
no,
think
yes,
it's interesting what you said about the disparities between the 10% and the
50.
50% and the 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes and the 60 minutes. It's quite interesting. That shows how long it takes, I guess, if you're really pushing yourself, how long it takes to recover
Yeah,
from
yeah,
that, really.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's just the body. You're an organism, right? Like if you stress the organism, it's going to take time for you're sending a stress signal, you're causing adaptations, which is positive. Like that's what triggers the adaptations from exercise is a stressor. So if you aren't doing the stressor, then you're not going to get the adaptation. But there's this fine window of like, what is the minimum effective dose and what is the maximum effective dose? You don't need to be doing the maximum effective dose every time on shift or just even every day. I mean, it's just not, that's how you break yourself. Like you're just doing too much too quickly, too hard. There are days that you need to do, lighter weights, moderate volume, just kind of allow the organism to adapt where you're not trying to crush yourself. So, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely does. Absolutely does. I wanted to ask as well about, there was a couple of statistics that you rolled out in the seminar that I was watching, and you're
Mhm.
talking about the Miami-Dade Fire Department
Yes.
and the Boston Fire Department, and
Mhm.
the the cancer statistics there were blowing my mind. You said
Yeah.
about Miami-Dade was 32% of the workforce was diagnosed or died of cancer between 2008 and 2010. 32% of the workforce. That is that's huge.
Huge.
And Boston was, I didn't quite understand the Boston one. It was 67% uh, in some capacity, but I wasn't clear on what exactly the capacity was. I know Boston. Tonya mentioned Boston and the higher
Yeah.
statistics. You said they were later to, late to adopt certain things, but
So
I
I
just
pulled it up here quickly also.
yeah,
Boston Fire Department, 67% of the line of duty deaths are from cancer.
right, got you.
So
Yeah,
I I don't remember the time frame, but it's probably within the past 5 or 6 years, the International Association of Firefighters, they started looking at deaths of, I want to say like a couple years after you retire. They were also including that in line of duty deaths for cancer.
yeah,
So once that became a part of the statistics, because they're like, hey, just like my the two firefighters that passed away at our department, you're not missing them because they retired 2 years ago. Um, that's still a line of duty death. They
yeah,
passed away very recently because of an occupational cancer.
yeah.
So yeah, Boston had really high numbers there within that line of duty death. So, and then the Miami-Dade, I also know some folks from there. One of them, she she had breast cancer. Now she has a line of firefighter dolls and is doing great with that. And she's about to retire here soon. Knock on wood. She's beaten cancer, and she does still work
Awesome.
with the University of Miami on some of their studies and research projects and stuff that they do. So God bless her. And yeah, she told me that absolutely that statistic was correct, and that a third of their department was, either diagnosed or died from cancer, and they were having issues left and right. And that was 2008 to 2010. So that was about a generation ago of firefighters, right? So you were seeing those guys it was still different kind of firefighting back then. Like maybe they weren't wearing their respirator all the time. They were still having overhaul issues, like going into overhaul without their respirator, or having asbestos or inhaling some of these things. And they weren't deconning, they weren't cleaning their gear. Like cleaning the gear was dirty gear was the sign of, and a badge of honor back then. So I I think that there has been a culture change to where we've hopefully and ideally improved some of these numbers, but that's where we were not long ago. Like I
Mm,
said, it was just a generation ago. So
yeah.
when we got into the fire service, some of this mentality was still there potentially. So it needs to be talked about, because we're not far removed from that, right? Like this is still something that we're dealing with the repercussions. She's still online and working. So yeah, it's not something that's a bygone era, but I've seen progressive movement forward.
Yeah, do you know what? I've had this conversation with one of my previous guests, Chris, and we were talking about when we joined. I think we both joined in 2010, and it was I remember some of the stuff that that I was being told to do then, and some of the stuff that was just completely being ignored. And I think back now, and I just think if that was happening now, you, I it's so different the steps that we've taken in such a, well, I was going to say short time, but 15 years is not a short time, really. I think sometimes I think that a lot of the progress has been made in the last 5 years, I think,
Yeah,
especially
I
over
feel
here,
like
I
too.
think. But how much do you think? I wanted to talk to you about culture, really, because I'm quite interested in the differences in culture here to culture in the US. And culture has been here responsible for a lot of the hold up, I think, in getting people to change behaviours. How much do you think over there, particularly, culture is getting in the way of necessary positive change? Because not all change in the fire service is positive. It's not always necessary, but
Yeah.
this, in terms of what we're talking about now, it is positive and it is necessary. How much do you think culture is getting in the way of that? Because there's a lot of guys that don't want to change, or they don't think we need to change, or they're oh well, that's that's the way we've always done it. So it's, how much do you think that is sort of holding up the progress, if you like?
It really depends. And I'm I'm unique, not in the sense of like, oh, I'm special, but I'm unique as in the sense of like, I just came from another health and safety conference in Ohio yesterday. I'm going to another health and safety conference on Monday in Orlando. So I see a lot of maybe the tip of the spear of the firefighter health and safety world. And then I come back to a department to where they're open minded and open eared to what I have to say to share from what I've learned. So I see both sides of it as in I'm still online. I work with regular Joes and all of my the normal guys every single day. And then I also go out and I talk to some of the people that are the experts in the field. And I also talk to the admin. So like I feel like I get a decent scope of our culture anyways. Um I feel like most of the time guys are pretty open to things that are we're going to do to try and protect us for the most part. Um, but at the same token, sometimes there's things that come through that we haven't fully vetted out yet, right? And I think that's where guys kind of lose faith in the system is like, we'll implement something that we haven't fully vetted or we haven't fully understood, and you start something before it should be implemented. And I think that's where you lose a lot of guys, whether it's a fireground strategy tactic or a decon thing or whatever. It's like, you guys as a department who we didn't do the necessary heavy lifting and footwork prior to be able to make sure that it was implemented properly and that everybody understood what was going on. So I think the culture is there as long as you're able to articulate and put a good plan in place. If
Yeah.
you can explain to the guys why they're doing it and how to do it, and you show them, and we're like, hey, we're going to do a little bit of training on this. This is why we're doing it. And you answer their questions. I think the buy-in's there. I think it's when you half-ass execute something that it's when you see issues.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think if you want people to make a change, then you need to tell them why, don't you? I think people just want to understand, right? Well, you want me to, I've done it like this for 10 years. All of a sudden, you want me to change it. I need to know why, which
Mm-hmm.
is, yeah,
It's
fair enough. Fair
understandable.
enough.
It's fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, uh, yeah, I see that quite commonly, and I get it because I'll be on the other end of it sometimes where I'm like, I don't understand why we're doing this. I think this is a dumb idea. Explain to me why we should implement this. And I'm like, oh, I'm probably feeling the same way that they feel when I tell them to open up their coats, like walking out of a fire, whatever, like, I mean, I have some buy-in with the guys trust me. So, but it's the same concept. There's things that happen to you and you're like, well, I don't agree with that. I don't understand it. Like, please explain this to me and maybe you can change my mind. Like, I'm not completely closed off to it, but I need to know why.
Yeah, yeah. You can't argue with that, really, can you? And it's fair enough. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with something else you said, which I really liked. You said, this was in your seminar, you said about improving the fire service for those coming in, so we can leave them a better service than the one that we inherited,
Yes.
basically. And
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Really, I think that again, it's a lot of things that you've said are very resonate very well with why I'm doing this podcast. So
Awesome.
it was a pleasure to sort of hear some of the things you were saying, really, and that's obviously reflective of perhaps of the experience you've had in the time you've been and the people that you've spent your time with, and maybe the wisdom that other people have imparted in yourself. Would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, we're both at a different place now than, we're not the new guy anymore. We're not the rookies. We're guys that are taking leadership roles within our culture and our department, one way or another. And I think that as you realize that you're there and you're like growing through that, you wind up you look around and you're like, wait, how did this happen? Like, I'm in charge of stuff right now. So I think once you kind of realize that and you're in the position of teaching the guys everything that I think that responsibility is put on you, and you're like, oh, like this is something that I get to pass on, and I don't know everything, but I've got four other guys at the station with me, and like between all of us, we're gonna raise this new firefighter, new probie the best that we can, and put all of the mistakes that we've made and all of the things that we've learned, and hopefully instill that into them and try and leave them with a better fire service than the one that we inherited. So If I can give them training equipment that they can train in and be safer and reduce their overall exposure for 20 years, and I can give them tactics to where they're trying to use transitional fire attack if they can, and the situation allows, because that's going to cool the environment. It's going to improve their ability for the bunker gear to function better and block particulates. It's going to improve the chance of victim survival rates. It's going to decrease the chance of flashover for doing flow and go once you're in interior. But all of these things are cooling the atmosphere, and they're reducing your dermal absorption rates of particulates, and they're improving the rates of any kind of survivor. So if you can do a transitional, if you can do flow and go, like all of these things make a difference to tactic wise of a firefighter. So I'm like, okay, make sure that they're training in the safest modality possible, make sure they're getting as much sleep as possible, make sure they're eating healthy and nutritious meals as often as possible, make sure they're exercising, give them better frontline bunker gear to where we're using this particulate blocking bunker gear that's been created by a couple companies now, where you're sealing off the coat at the bottom like it's an elastic piece that keeps the coat, just like we were talking about with the VOCs coming up underneath the coats and the pants. You're almost having that wrist cuff idea around the waist and around the pants. So you're not getting as much coming up through the coats through the bunker gear just wafting up.
Yeah.
So if we start doing all these little things and I'm like, hey, do this, do that, make sure you gross decon. Like, we didn't gross decon when we came out. Like, we didn't start doing that until we had the equipment and the buckets and the soap and the scrubs. So look at all the things that they come into, and they're taught cultural wise from day one that, hey, this is our standard. This is how we do it. And we do this because we care about you, and we care about our fire department, our brotherhood, and we want to make sure that everybody's as healthy as possible at the end of the day. So that's basically where I feel like we can make an impact on not just the entire fire service, but just your crew, right? Like, that makes a difference. So
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, implementing and kind of instilling that approach in people from day one. So it is the norm, and hopefully, it won't be long. Give it a few years. We are teaching people this as they're coming in.
yeah.
It'll be not the norm, and they won't even consider doing it any differently. And they'll look back on on today and maybe not long before today, and they'll be in disbelief of the way that we used to do things. I really hope that 10, 20 years from now, that is what the fire service looks like, and people will not even consider exposing themselves to some of the things that people are still exposed to now.
Yeah, watching the old timers go in with a leather coat and just have a mustache, no respirator, nothing.
Yeah. Which, like you say, was coming out with a sooty face and whatever else it was, and wearing dirty gear was a badge of honor, wasn't it? And I think it's only really getting filtered out now. I think
Yeah.
that kind of
And
mentality.
once you have so much education and proof and evidence and numbers from deaths, it's like, it's stupid. Like, there's really no other alternative way to say it. There's no nice way to say it. It's like, you have so much overwhelming data to point that that's not the right thing to do. And you know what? I'll share this story also from FDIC. 2 years ago, I did the stair climb there, and there was a bunch of guys that they're wearing their bunker gear, trying to do it. The stair climb to honor 9/11. They're wearing their bunker gear, trying to make it hard, trying to commemorate the fallen firefighter from 9/11, and they were doing burn classes that week, and I'm smelling all of this gear while we're doing the stair climb, and I'm wearing the Carna bunker gear, trying to show guys that this is a thing. Like, let's do this. This is for cancer awareness, and I've got dudes that I'm sniffing, burn bunker gear behind me, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, this is literally a cancer prevention stair climb. So I reached out to the organizers for the next year, and I was like, hey, I did the stair climb last year. There was a ton of dudes that smelled like smoke and soot. Please don't allow this. And they went forward, and I don't remember if it was my idea or their idea, but they got one of the decon companies, I think it was Redline, and they set their cleaning truck up at the burn site, and they
Awesome.
cleaned everybody's gear for free. And then,
Wow.
yeah, and
That's amazing.
everybody that came and did a burn or did some training
Yeah.
at FDIC that was out there in that burn site area, they got their gear clean for free. And then if they showed up to the stair climb, their gear was clean. So, but
Great.
that all I did was raise my hand and be like, hey, like I this is a problem, and it's slipped by you guys because you're so busy doing the event and hosting the event, but this is not that's not the standard, and we shouldn't be allowing this. So
Yeah, no, I mean, you say all you did, but it's quite a big thing that you did, because a lot of people wouldn't even bother. They just think that it's not my problem. But
yeah,
you've had the bottle to get in touch and do you know what? Please stop doing this. And I think that's great, mate. Yeah, hats off to you, respect to you for doing that, because a lot of people wouldn't give enough of a shit to do that.
Mhm.
So we
Yeah,
need more people doing things like you in the
I'm just
service.
hard headed enough.
You have to be that. You do have to be sometimes. You have to be on just the right balance of caring enough to
Yeah.
do something, but not caring enough that you might get a bit of shit for it. Yeah, yeah. So, is there anything else that you wanna touch on before we sort of round off with that last couple of things I want to ask you? Anything you think that we might have missed or we've not sort of delved into enough?
I'm sure we could talk about stuff forever, but just a small side note because I didn't touch on this as some of the firefighter specific stuff and some of the cardiac risks are usually seen from line of duty deaths from on fire calls. That's the vast majority of when those things happen is during a call or after.
Yeah.
That's
So
where
when we're exerting ourselves.
when you're exerting
Yeah.
yourself, and it's due to the bunker gear primarily. The bunker gear is not allowing you to dissipate heat. Your body core temperature is rising. I mean, once you get up to 103 degrees, like you're starting to see, and when you're sweating out up to a liter of fluid in 30 minutes, wearing bunker gear, you're just in pushing rapid dehydration. And that escalating temperature that rises so quickly is really the primary problem. So it's not just the ambient temperature in the fire or the atmosphere, it's your inability to cool yourself from that bunker gear.
It's a
And that's
perfect
where
storm, isn't it, really?
it really is.
The more
And
dehydrated we're getting, the thicker the blood's going to get as well, isn't it?
correct. Yeah. And that's one of the physiological things that's occurring that I don't know if we just don't think about because you're doing a job like you're
Yeah.
it's not the forefront thing in your mind, right? But that's where that foundational level of physical fitness comes in, and not being overweight is also a giant indicator for thermal regulation. So if
Yeah.
you're obese, you cannot handle as much, you don't have as much heat tolerance. So making sure that you're exercising is also going to give you I would say exercise is the first step to heat acclimation. That's going to give you a little bit of heat acclimation just because your core body
Cool.
temperature is coming up. So if
Yeah.
I were to introduce someone to heat acclimation training, just general exercise would be step one. Step two would be exercising out in the bay or a garage gym, something of that nature. And then you can obviously progressively get to doing things in gear for uncompensable heat stress, where the uncompensable heat stress aspect of it is when that temperature starts to rise so high that you are not able to bring the core temperature back down, even through sweat or whatever. It just
Right.
continues to rise.
Yeah.
And that's what we see in the bunker gear. And that's where you see some of these line of duty deaths at the 45% from the cardiac rates, and the majority of those being on fire ground or directly after. So being in shape and having some heat acclimation, general heat acclimation stuff, you can get within 4 to 6 days of exercising in heat acclimation, and you'll get about 100% of the adaptations between 7 to 10 days. So it's really not that complex or that difficult to do. You just have to be a little bit consistent with it. And you will also maintain those adaptations for about a month. So once you get
Right.
the heat acclimation adaptations, you'll maintain them for a while. So where you don't have to be exercising every single day outside, but you can do it, a few times a week, and you're maintaining that. So I just I want to touch on that real quickly, just because that was the only other relevant thing to the cardiac issues that we see in the fire service.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you did. It's just one of the many wonderful
Yeah.
benefits of exercise, isn't it? And the
Mhm.
things that are just at our fingertips that we
Yeah.
can do. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, thanks for that, mate.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
no problem. Thank you for
Oh,
letting me share.
absolutely. I want to. Yeah, I've been quite happy picking your brain while you're here. Lots of valuable things have come out of it. So, what's next for you then in terms of, you know, career progression? What in terms, kind of bunker gear? And you
Mhm.
must have a lot of things in the pipeline. What are your plans then from now?
Yeah. Yeah, and I wish I wish that it was direct route, right? Nobody,
Yeah, yeah,
we're always kind of just figuring it out as we go. And that's what business is too, man. I wake up every day and figure out another hurdle that we have to step over, whether it's marketing, logistics, getting educational material out for guys to make sure they understand why it's important. So yeah, we're kind of just growing every day with the business, and we're in that initial growth stage where it's a lot of workload for a few of us for sure, but it's really rewarding. It's cool when I see the progress that we've made. So yeah, we're going to continue to do that, continue to expand marketing and make sure that people understand the product and concept is out there, and it's there to help save our guys lives. And for my professional career in the fire department, I want to continue to try and promote and eventually get a when we create the health and safety position, whether it's a officer, lieutenant spot or chief or whatever, I have my sights set on that. So that's in the budget here for the next 3 years. I want to say that they're going to try and get that approved. So that one's got my name on it, and I want to try and kind of bring a, uh, bring to our department probably what I would call all of the accumulated information that I've gathered and stuff, and try and make us kind of like an epicenter for health and fitness in the fire service to be an example for the rest of the country and the rest of the world to be like, hey, this is what this is what the standard is. If you want to learn
yeah,
something, like come here, and I think that would be super cool, and that would be something that I would really enjoy doing and building out for us and our guys and our brotherhood. So
yeah, man, excellent. That sounds amazing. Yeah, well,
yeah,
best of luck to you. I hope
fingers crossed.
I hope it happens how you want it to happen, and when you want it to happen. And yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on the kind of bunker gear, and I'm excited to see where you go with it.
Yeah, brother. Thank you. I
Yeah,
appreciate it. And
definitely.
thank you for having us on, man. And yeah, I wish you guys the best of luck over there and getting that presumptive bill and continuing the podcast. And I'll try and think of some folks I can send your way too to
Mate, that'd be great.
keep your wheel spinning, baby.
Definitely, definitely. Please do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So before you go, I'd like to ask everyone at the end: have you got a book, documentary, and/or a movie recommendation for us?
Yeah. I just since we were talking about the PFAS stuff, Dark Waters, if anybody hasn't seen that, that's with Mark
Yeah,
Ruffalo.
cool.
Super
Yeah,
good. Have you seen it?
that's a great movie. Yeah, I've seen
Great
that. Yeah,
movie.
I would absolutely say to everyone, watch that. Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
So
Very interesting.
just because it was on topic, I wanted to say that it's I honestly the movie made me angry when I watched it.
Yeah,
When you kind of realize all of that buffoonery that was going on and the
I think
hiding.
I think you'd be a bit weird if it didn't make you angry, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Really? Yeah.
yeah, I guess you're right. So, but yeah, I think that's a great one. There's an actual documentary on it also. I forget the name of it, but it's more
Oh,
of an actual
I'll have a look.
documentary.
Yeah.
Um, Somebody just told me what it was like yesterday too. So, Dark Waters, and then any of the two of my favorite books that I pretty much recommend to everybody is Jocko Willink's book, The Extreme Ownership.
Cool. Yeah.
He has version 1 and 2 to where the first one is extreme ownership, to where you're basically taking all of the whatever the issue is, like you're looking within yourself and trying to
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
And then the second one is the dichotomy of leadership, where it's like,
Oh yeah.
okay, there's also issues that are out here. How do you, communicate with people and make sure that you're basically being a good leader in communication wise, because you can go so far in the extreme end of taking ownership for everything
Yeah.
that that's actually not the answer either. So those are great books. And How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, was written 100 years ago. But
Cool.
I think that
Yeah.
that's such a valuable book. And I read that, I think, a little bit before probation or when I was on probation. And I think that kind of like permanently changed the way I looked at the world and looked at interacting with people. And I
Cool.
think one of
Interesting.
the valuable lessons from that was really, when you're talking to people, like, have a genuine interest and a genuine curiosity, to hear what they have to say and what they're talking about. Because if they're talking about it to you, they feel comfortable enough sharing it with you and it's important to them. And if you make them feel like that's important, then you've just made a great friendship and a great connection, and they appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
thank you for doing that as well,
Back at you. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, and mate, I've really enjoyed the chat, and yeah, thank you for coming on and taking the time out of your day to come and talk to me. I do appreciate it, and yeah, I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to putting it out.
perfect. Yeah, no, I appreciate you, James, and good luck out there. And yeah, please let me know if I can do anything for you guys and help you guys out in any way.
Likewise, mate. Same to you. Thank you very much. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon, Ryan. Been a
All
pleasure.
right, man.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Thank you.
See
Talk
you,
to you,
mate.
boss.
Bye
Bye.
bye.